Fear shows up in your life like it owns the place. It sneaks in when you're about to take a chance, when you're about to speak up, when you're about to put yourself out there. And it convinces you that what you feel in that moment is a sign to stop. But here's the truth that no one tells you clearly enough. Fear is not a permanent part of you. It's a learned pattern. Fear is a habit. And just like any habit, it can be rewired. Think about how habits are built. You brush your teeth at the same time every day. You grab your phone before you even get out of bed. You put sugar in your coffee without even thinking. Those patterns run on autopilot. Fear works the same way. At some point in your life, you experience failure, embarrassment, rejection, or pain. Your brain marked that moment as dangerous. And now, every time you step close to something that feels remotely similar, your brain fires off alarms. Don't do this. You'll get hurt again. Stay small. Stay safe. That isn't truth. That's a loop. That's your mind running an old program, and you've been practicing it for so long that it feels like part of your identity. But it's not who you are. It's a habit. Here's how you know it's a habit. Have you ever noticed that fear shows up in the exact same places? Maybe it's always before you speak in public. Maybe it's before you ask for something you need. Maybe it's when you try to do something new in your career or relationships. It's predictable. It doesn't matter if the situation is brand new. Your reaction is recycled. That's what habits do. They run the same script again and again until you start believing the script is your reality. The problem is, once you see fear as permanent, you start negotiating your life around it. You avoid opportunities. You avoid people. You avoid dreams. You tell yourself, that's just the way I am. But that's a lie fear wants you to believe. You weren't born with these specific fears. You learned them. And what you learn can be unlearned. Think about the first time you did something that scared you. Maybe riding a bike, maybe learning to swim, maybe walking into a new school or job. At first, your brain screamed at you, this is dangerous. Your stomach dropped, your hands shook, your heart raced. But once you kept practicing, the fear shrank. Riding that bike became natural. Swimming became normal. Talking to new people became easier. What happened? You broke the habit of fear by replacing it with a habit of action. That's the key. Fear shrinks when action grows. Every single time you interrupt the loop and choose to act, you're teaching your brain a new pattern. You're saying, I hear you, fear, but I'm not obeying you. That repetition matters. Because the more often you take action in the face of fear, the more you prove to yourself that the alarm was fake. And your brain eventually learns a new habit, courage. Most people make the mistake of waiting for fear to go away before they move. They think, once I feel confident, once I feel ready, once I feel safe, then I'll do it. But waiting only strengthens the habit. The longer you sit in hesitation, the louder fear becomes. You don't beat a habit by indulging it. You beat a habit by disrupting it. That means the moment you feel fear, instead of freezing, you act. Not later, not tomorrow, right now. You pick up the phone, you speak up in the meeting, you take the first step, you hit record, you say yes. When you do this, something incredible happens. You start realizing that fear has no real power. The alarm goes off, but nothing actually explodes. The thing you thought would destroy you doesn't. And even if it's uncomfortable, you survive. That's how the brain relearns. It gets evidence that the old habit was wrong. The beautiful part is the more you practice disrupting fear, the easier it gets. Just like any muscle, courage grows with repetition. At first, it feels impossible. You sweat, you shake, you want to run. But keep practicing and the intensity fades. Soon, what used to terrify you becomes your new normal. That's how you build confidence. That's how you create freedom. And here's something to remember. Fear will never fully disappear. It will always pop up when you're growing, when you're stretching, when you're doing something new. But if you can recognize it as a habit instead of a life sentence, you stop giving it authority. You stop letting it dictate the limits of your life. You see it for what it is, a signal that you're about to do something that matters. Anxiety is like quicksand. The more you think about it, the deeper you sink. It wraps around your chest, steals your breath, and makes even the smallest decision feel impossible. You sit there overanalyzing, replaying every possible outcome, imagining every worst-case scenario, and the pressure builds until you're paralyzed. But here's the truth that flips the script anxiety feeds on inaction. The longer you sit in your head, the stronger it grows. The instant you move, it starts to lose power. Action breaks anxiety. Think about the times you've been stuck in worry. You lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through everything that could go wrong tomorrow. You pace the room before a presentation, convincing yourself you're not ready. You avoid sending that message, applying for that opportunity, or making that call because the thought of rejection keeps looping in your brain. What happens when you sit still in those moments? The thoughts get louder, your body tenses, your chest tightens, anxiety multiplies in silence. But the moment you move, even in the smallest way, something shifts. You send one text, you take one breath and start speaking. You take one step forward. That one act disrupts the loop. That one act proves to your brain that you are not helpless. That's how action breaks the cycle. Your brain is wired for survival, not happiness. Its job is to scan for danger. The problem is, in modern life, most of what it interprets as danger is not life-threatening. Speaking up in a meeting, starting a project, saying how you feel, stepping into the unknown, your brain treats these like lions waiting to attack, and when your brain sounds the alarm, your body responds racing heart, sweaty palms, tight chest. That's anxiety. But here's the trick. Your body can't stay in high alert forever if you're moving forward. The act of doing something signals to your nervous system that you are not trapped, you are not powerless, and the danger is not real. It doesn't have to be a massive action. People think they need to wait until they're ready to make a big move, but that keeps them frozen. You don't need big moves to break anxiety. You need immediate moves, small, simple actions that shift your focus out of your head and into the present. Write the first line, walk outside, make the call, start the timer. That tiny act snaps the loop of overthinking. Anxiety is like fog. It looks dense from a distance, but one step forward clears the space in front of you. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates relief. Once you start moving, even clumsily, your brain shifts gears. It goes from what if mode to what now mode. Instead of rehearsing disasters, you're solving problems. Instead of drowning in thoughts, you're building evidence that you can handle what's in front of you. And every single time you choose action over hesitation, you're retraining your brain. You're proving to yourself that you can do hard things, that the panic was temporary, that the only thing keeping you stuck was the pause. Think about procrastination. It's not laziness, it's anxiety disguised. You avoid writing the report because you're anxious about not doing it perfectly. You avoid calling the client because you're anxious about what they'll say. You avoid starting the workout because you're anxious about failing again. The task isn't the problem. The waiting is the problem. And the longer you wait, the heavier it feels. The solution isn't to think your way out of it. The solution is to act your way out of it. Open the laptop, dial the number, put on the shoes. The action doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to start the engine. And here's the thing. Action not only breaks anxiety, it builds confidence. Confidence doesn't appear before action. It comes after. People get this backwards. They wait to feel confident so they can act, but confidence is earned by acting when you don't feel ready. Each time you move through anxiety, you prove to yourself that you can. That proof stacks. That's how you build trust in yourself. That's how you shrink anxiety's grip. When you think back on your proudest moments, notice this, every single one of them required action first. You didn't feel fully ready. You didn't feel totally certain. You just moved. And looking back, that movement is what created the growth. Anxiety didn't disappear first. It was interrupted by motion. And the more often you practice this, the faster the shift happens. You stop letting anxiety decide your limits. You stop giving hesitation the steering wheel. You train yourself to act first and let courage catch up. Anxiety thrives in one place, the future. Fear grows strongest when your mind drifts into the land of what ifs. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if this goes wrong? You play out endless scenarios that haven't even happened, and your body responds as if every single one is happening right now. That's why you feel paralyzed. That's why your chest gets tight. That's why your thoughts race. But here's the truth. The future is not real. The only thing that is real is this moment. And when you shift your focus to the present, you take back your power. Notice how fear rarely lives in the present. Right now, as you sit here, you are breathing. Your heart is beating. You are safe. But the moment your mind drifts ahead, imagining tomorrow's meeting, next week's deadline, or next year's uncertainty, suddenly you're drowning in pressure. You feel overwhelmed not because of what's happening now, but because of what you think might happen. Anxiety is a projection. It's a movie your brain keeps playing about disasters that haven't arrived. And most of those disasters, they never will. You've probably noticed that half the things you feared in the past didn't even come true. But that didn't stop your brain from torturing you with them in the moment. That's what happens when you let your focus live in the future instead of the present. When you bring yourself back to the present, something powerful happens. The noise quiets. Your body calms down. You realize that in this second, you can handle what's in front of you. Maybe you can't solve tomorrow's problem right now. Maybe you can't predict every outcome, but you can take one step in this moment. You can breathe. You can speak, you can move. The present simplifies everything. The present shrinks the mountain into a step. Think about it like this. When you zoom too far out, the journey looks impossible. You see the whole staircase and feel crushed by how far you have to climb. That's future focus. But when you zoom in on the step right in front of you, suddenly it feels doable. You don't need to know how you'll climb the 100th step. You just need to take the first one. Focusing on the present keeps your energy where it matters, on the step you can actually take right now. It's the same with performance anxiety. Before you go on stage, your mind leaps into the future. What if I forget my lines? What if the audience laughs? What if I embarrass myself? Your heart pounds as if all those disasters are guaranteed. But the moment you ground yourself in the present, the lights, the floor under your feet, the first word you need to say, the fear loosens. You stop drowning in imagined futures and anchor yourself in reality. That's how athletes perform under pressure. That's how speakers command a room. They bring themselves out of the what ifs and into the right now. This works in everyday life too. Worrying about your career path 5 years from now will paralyze you, but focusing on doing your best work today, that's progress. Obsessing about whether a relationship will last forever will suffocate it. But focusing on being present in the conversation, in the laugh, in the connection today, that builds it. Stressing over whether you'll hit every milestone in life will crush you. But focusing on making the most of this hour, this day, this choice, that changes everything. The present is powerful because it's the only place you can act. You can't change yesterday. You can't control tomorrow. But you can shape this moment. And when you take care of this moment, the next moment takes care of itself. Stack enough present moments and suddenly the future looks very different. Not because you obsessed over it, but because you built it one present choice at a time. One of the fastest ways to pull yourself into the present is through your senses. Anxiety lives in your head, but the present lives in your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice your breath moving in and out. Look around the room and name 5 things you can see. These simple shifts anchor you. They remind you that the world is happening here, not in the stories you're spinning in your mind. Another way is through action. Instead of spiraling over what might happen, ask yourself, what's the one small thing I can do right now? Send the email, open the document, step outside and walk. Anxiety loses its grip when you stop thinking about everything and start doing something. That one small action snaps you back to the present, where you have influence. Shifting your focus to the present doesn't mean ignoring the future. It means refusing to live there before it arrives. Planning is useful, preparing is smart, but dwelling in imagined disasters is destructive. The goal is to spend less time in what if and more time in what now. Because what now is always manageable, it's always real, and it's always the only place where your power actually exists. Most people believe courage feels like confidence. They think courageous people wake up fearless, ready to face anything without hesitation. That's not true. Courage has nothing to do with the absence of fear. Courage is about moving forward while fear is screaming in your ear. It's about taking action even though your hands are shaking, your heart is pounding, and your brain is telling you to turn back. Courage doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you don't let fear control what you do next. Fear is wired into you. It's your brain's way of keeping you safe. And sometimes that's a good thing. Fear protects you from real danger, jumping off cliffs, touching fire, stepping into traffic. But most of the fear you experience isn't about survival. It's about rejection, failure, embarrassment, or uncertainty. Those aren't life-threatening, but your brain reacts as if they are. That's why you freeze. That's why you pull back. That's why you stop before you even start. If you believe that courage means waiting for fear to vanish, you'll wait forever, because fear never disappears. It shows up every time you push yourself to grow, every time you step outside what's comfortable, every time you chase something that matters. Courage is not about erasing fear. Courage is about choosing to act while carrying fear with you. Think about every meaningful moment in your life. The first time you raised your hand in class. The first time you spoke to someone you admired. The first time you applied for a job, stood on a stage, or tried something new. Were you fearless? Of course not. You were nervous. You doubted yourself. You imagined what could go wrong, but you did it anyway. That is courage. The problem is that most people misunderstand fear. They think fear is a stop sign when in reality it's a green light. Fear is proof that you are stretching, proof that you are reaching for something bigger, proof that you're alive and engaged. If you feel fear, it means you're standing at the edge of growth. Courage is stepping off that edge, even when it feels like you might fall. And when you do, you realize that fear wasn't the wall you thought it was. It was just a shadow. Courage doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's small and quiet. It's making the phone call you've been avoiding. It's speaking up in a room where you normally stay silent. It's admitting you need help. It's showing up even when you feel unworthy. Every small act of courage builds strength. Every time you choose action in the presence of fear, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the emotion trying to stop you. That proof starts to stack. That's how confidence is built. Confidence is not the starting point. It's the reward you earn after moving with courage. One of the biggest lies fear tells you is that you need to feel ready before you act. You wait for the fear to calm down, for your nerves to disappear, for your doubts to fade. But waiting doesn't work. Waiting makes fear louder. The longer you hesitate, the more excuses your brain creates. Courage isn't about waiting. Courage is about cutting through the noise with movement. Even if you take a shaky step, even if your voice cracks, even if your hands tremble, you move. And that movement robs fear of its power. Think about the people you admire, the ones who inspire you. They aren't fearless. They're human, just like you. They feel nerves before stepping on stage. They feel doubt before launching an idea. They feel uncertainty before making a bold decision. The difference is they don't let those feelings decide for them. They move anyway. That's why they succeed. That's why they grow. That's why their lives expand instead of shrink. Here's the thing, courage isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Fear will show up again and again, and every time it does, you get another chance to choose courage. Some days it will feel easier, other days it will feel impossible. But the more often you practice moving through fear, the more natural it becomes. Courage is like a muscle. You build it through repetition. Every time you use it, it gets stronger. Every time you avoid it, fear gets stronger. The choice is yours, and courage doesn't mean you won't fail. It doesn't mean everything will go smoothly. Sometimes you'll stumble, sometimes you'll fall, sometimes you'll face rejection. But here's what courage guarantees: you'll learn, you'll grow, you'll expand. Fear wants to shrink your world. Courage expands it. Fear wants you stuck in the same routines. Courage pulls you into new experiences. Fear wants you silent. Courage helps you speak. Fear wants you frozen. Courage gets you moving. Fear may still be in the car, but courage takes the wheel.